If you would have asked me 2 years ago, Levi, do you ever see yourself making a video talking about anxiety, depression, and stress? I probably would have honestly answered you and said, no way in hell. So first off, before we get into anything, I just want to apologize for the lack in inconsistency in uploading. I know for a lot of you guys that are OGs coming to the channel, you're looking for a video every Wednesday and Saturday. There's really not any excuse to be made other than the fact that it's been, I would say, a little more challenging trying to get content up every Wednesday and Saturday with such a drastic change in my schedule, which has been everlasting since, I would say, COVID, just ever since COVID hit. My schedule has just forever been all over the place. So something I've always been trying to get down. Either way, that's just an excuse. So for anyone that's new here, yo, what's up? Welcome to the channel. I'm Levi, or as I usually say, yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another YouTube video. For any of you guys that are new here, my name is Levi. Consider hitting that subscribe button after this YouTube video, or maybe after you check out some of my other YouTube videos. Yeah, anyways, enough for the apologies, enough of the excuses. We're gonna get into my little story on anxiety, stress, and depression. Now, I wanna say that this video is mostly entitled to anxiety rather than depression and stress, but they were definitely I would say, important factor into this story. So I'm gonna give you kind of like a beginning, middle, and end, and then we're also going to kind of break down the scientific stuff of exactly what was going on and why I was feeling this way, because it's not just all of a sudden, you know, one day I woke up anxious, or one day I woke up depressed, or one day I woke up stressed. So now we're gonna get into it. Where did this story all begin? How did anything actually ever get started? How did this anxiety that led to depression, that led to stress, even happen? So back in June or July of 2020, I saw a video that someone made of me. It was another fitness influencer, and they were kind of on the come up, and they had an influence that like I would love to have. And they said a comment about me, and they said something about me being corny, and I kind of let it get into my head a little more than I did. And that's where kind of everything took a turn for the worse, is just as soon as I let a comment get to my head, because once you let one thing get to you, you're vulnerable to letting more things get to you. So right then and there, I let it get to me. And I think it was just because I saw comments of other people just kind of hating on me too for being like corny and whatnot. And there's times most definitely that I'm corny, and I would say that them calling me out, me seeing that, was a blessing and a curse. And I would say that the blessing in that was I realized that I can also be a little more original in my content rather than following trends. And I was also making, I would say, videos at the time on TikTok that were a little thirst trappy. And by the way, I was using TikTok to avenue into my YouTube. So the fact that I was making content that wasn't gonna, I would say, get me to my goal with YouTube was not right. So I'm glad that that happened in that sense. But I would say the curse was that it opened up for me to allow a lot of things to get to my head. That's kind of where everything began. I would say month after month, I just let a lot more things get into my head. Like I just became so vulnerable to letting things get into my head. So for example, when I went down to Los Angeles with Jesse James West, by the way, super great content creator, super just go-getter, hard-ass worker. I literally got to see this dude edit his own 3 videos a week. Literally, he is relentless, just like he says. And when I saw his content though, I, for some reason, like I said, let something get to my head, and I saw kind of like the success he was having, the influence, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna follow that content. And at this time, I was kind of being impatient. I'm notorious for being impatient. So I started making content like his, and I would say that ramped up my anxiety a lot more, because it was harder for me to come up with that kind of content. I don't have that kind of persona that he does. He plays that persona very good in his videos. I am more so just a relatable character, someone that is more so honest. I would say my strength is being honest and being very open about my life with my audience in a way that's not, you know, too much into my life, but it's just enough to the point where it's inspiring, motivational, and it gives people hope. Basically, when I started creating other content based off of not only the person that made that comment, but also just seeing his content, just changing that allowed me to, I would say, suppress my creativity, and I wasn't as creative as I wanted to be. So it made me a lot more anxious in trying to create content, because I was freaking out because I literally could not create content anymore. Like I literally felt frozen. I just didn't know what to create anymore, because I almost kind of lost sight of my goal, or who I kind of was with my goal. So after that, like I said, a lot of things were getting more into my head. Then all of a sudden this girl comes into my life, Mackenzie, as many of you may know. And when she came into my life, I didn't really have any intention on dating her. I don't think she had any intention on dating me, but we ended up dating either way. And I think, but I definitely know that during that time period, I remember I had anxiety kind of about dating her, like the thought about it, because I knew I wasn't in a good headspace to be dating someone at that moment, just because I had anxiety on my own and I was kind of dealing with some own personal issues. But I liked her, so I sent it anyway, and she sent it, I guess, as well. So we started dating, and then from there on out, I was just still kind of making content that I would say was difficult for me to come up with. Some of it was, just vlogs that I would come up with, which was really good and I thoroughly enjoyed. And then there was some times where I was making content where I was just not happy with it. Like I did a couple living likes and that was just tough. And so this anxiety kind of period, which I was kind of always living with, that's why I never took caffeine, by the way. I would always mention in my videos like, oh, I'm on the stim free, because my anxiety was so bad that I could not take any caffeine. This continued on for some months up until leading to Texas, as some of you guys know I went down to. And I would say it led to depression at this point, because all of these thoughts were just running through my head because I was allowing so many things to get to me, because I was so anxious and vulnerable from letting one thing get to my head, that I started thinking about really negative things. Like my anxiety just started thinking of negative things like, oh, what if this doesn't work out? And I started becoming less confident in myself and my abilities and what I was doing with social media. And I was really freaking myself out. And then it led to a lot of comparing too, because like I said, I'm just having so many thoughts at once. So then I made an ultimate decision to go down to Texas, probably one of the worst decisions I've ever made. And I'm not saying that I regret it, it's just because I should have known better that I was starting to get emotional as well. And by the way, when you start to become emotionally unstable, that also ramps up your anxiety. Anxiety is usually caused by a disbalance in your emotions. And that was starting to happen, which ramped up my anxiety even more. I was just very emotionally unstable, and I went down there knowing that. Like literally, I think on my whole way down there, I cried every single day. And it was because not only did I miss like my family, there was just a lot on my mind, like kind of just worry a little bit. Yeah, that happened. Got down to Texas, a lot of things. I mean, you guys kind of know what played out. I would say as soon as Devin decided to leave, that really shook me, and I'm not mad at Devin for it. It's not anyone's fault. Like the people's names I'm bringing up in this video, it's not any of their fault. They didn't cause any of this anxiety. This is all on my own doing. I don't know what's going through Devin's head. He has to do what he has to do. So he goes back home, and I'm just sitting there. I remember one day I was just like, what am I even doing here? Like nothing is really panning out the way I wanted to go. I was having relationship issues. So I was just, I called my family. I was like, I'm coming home. Like this is not working. I had a good support system, I would say, down in Houston. Like the close, 3 friends that I had down there were really good. They supported me, and I think I just kind of lacked seeing that as well. I think it just freaked me out. Like I had a lot going on, and I was just shook. I was so shook. And so I, made the ultimate decision to come home. Came home, and that's when things got even worse, because when I got home, I just started questioning everything, like my whole life. What am I gonna do for the rest of my life for a career choice? Like I felt embarrassed too. Like I felt like I let my audience down, you guys down. I literally felt like such a loser, which led to even more depressing thoughts. Like I thought, I had this idea that I was gonna go down to Texas and just work things out and just do what I had to do and get back, and things were all of a sudden just gonna work out, which I don't know how I would have formulated that idea, but that's definitely what my thought process was. So I was truly embarrassed. I felt super bad about myself. I was talking very negative about myself. I was not talking highly about myself at all. So I was dealing with all these depressing thoughts about myself. I was super anxious because I didn't even know what to do. I still don't know what's gonna go on, but I've had this realization that I'm only 21. And I have a lot of years left that I have to mess up and try different things. So there's that, and I would say that's kind of like the ultimate story. I was able to, I would say, reside a lot of what was going on in my life to relieve stress. And by the way, my stress was the biggest thing toward the end of the story, because I would say it wasn't until January until everything kind of resided in terms of the anxiety and depression, or I would say the end of December, and I just had stress at that point. Through that story, I hope you guys are able to kind of take back something, that is, don't let one thing get to your head, because if you allow one thing to get to your head, you're gonna allow so much more to get to your head, and it's just gonna cause a whole disruption in your life. I don't wanna get into the science aspect of everything, because I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with me on Instagram, but my physical health actually started to become a little affected by this. So toward the end, like I said, everything kind of turned into stress, and stress is a component of anxiety, but instead of, I would say, becoming anxious in terms of just worrying and, you know, thinking about a whole bunch of things, I just cooped it up, didn't think about anything, and I just like got tense, you know. I didn't allow myself to think about anything. I just balled it up and didn't do anything with it. And so essentially what happened was, as I was so stressed and I was releasing so much cortisol, that I actually became sick for 2.5 months. Like, I was literally catching every sickness that was literally in my vicinity. As soon as I got back, I had a sinus infection, which could have been from, you know, allergies traveling all the way from the south all the way back up north. Then I literally got a cold, and then after that, I got another cold, and then after that, I got the corona. So I was literally sick for a whole 2 months, and that time period, that was like a super difficult time period because I was also dealing with mental health issues at the same time. If you're wondering why I got sick for 2.5 months from stress, because you're probably wondering why. So essentially what happens, your body releases a chemical called cortisol, and cortisol will suppress your immune system from fighting off any sort of disease and whatnot, but it takes a lot to get there. So I don't even know how high my cortisol levels were. I'm actually gonna get some blood work done on January 31st, which is the day this video is actually coming out. So we'll see what happens there. I'm gonna record that whole process and see exactly what happened. Aside from that, like I said, there was also some mental things that was happening aside from the physical things, and the mental things were, I would say the toughest thing was OCD, which included intrusive thoughts. It's not just OCD like, oh, this pillow right here needs to be fixed. No, it was just like insane random thoughts. They literally could have been anything. So one of my thoughts could have been, you know, I'm at the gym and some guy's under the squat rack, he's got 405 on his back, and I think, oh, what if I went and like pushed him? And then I started pondering on that thought and going, why am I thinking about something so, I would say, evil, so negative? And it's because you start just having intrusive thoughts under stress. Now, the reason that happens is because I was keeping everything so suppressed that everything in my mind wanted to be out, if that makes sense. Like, that's kind of the science behind it. Like I said, stress is a under category of anxiety. That happened. If you guys are wondering where the depression came from, it just honestly came from like dopamine stuff just being shut down, like motivation, not seeing likes, not seeing views, because my business as of even right now has just been very slow. Just like my business as a whole of who I am has just been extremely slow. It's been honestly really depressing because, you know, I'm not really making progress, I would say, toward my dreams, or progress maybe that I can't see. You know, that's where I'll like need to back myself behind the head and just go, Levi, shut up. You know, things take some time. So that's one thing I'm learning to absorb, and that was it. I just want to say, if you're someone right now dealing with anxiety, stress, or depression, feel free to message me on Instagram. I would love to talk to you about it. Also, I just want to mention that my idea and perspective on kind of what I want to do with social media has changed drastically because of some of the things that have happened. There's a lot more too with just like the fitness industry that I've seen, and I kind of feel almost like I need a career direction change with it, but it's still gonna always be revolved around fitness. But I just wanted to tell you guys a story and hopefully help someone out that might be dealing with this and know that you're not alone. Anyways, that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you guys liked this video. If you guys did, be sure to give it a like. If any of you guys are new here, do not forget to press the subscribe button. And one thing that I'm gonna leave you guys off with is, I'm not gonna give up. I'm not stopping. I'm gonna figure this out. I don't know what I'm here to honestly do on YouTube, but I just know for whatever reason, you know, I've been praying about it. God's told me I'm not supposed to give up, so I'm not giving up, because the sky is the limit.